You are standing in a situation you never planned for. The car went off the road into a ravine. Phone has no signal. Temperature is dropping 8 degrees every hour. And the light is fading. The common thread in scenarios like this is not bad. Luck. It is the assumption that survival requires gear you haven't bought yet. That assumption gets people killed. Not dramatically, quietly. Through hypothermia that first feels like drowsiness. Through a wound that becomes infected because nothing sterile was available when it mattered. What separates the people who walk out from the people who don't is usually observation. The ability to look at the ordinary environment and see not what things are, but what they can do. Military veterans are trained to inventory the environment before inventorying their gear. And the environment, it turns out, is extraordinarily generous to anyone who knows how to ask. Here are 11 things it will give you for free. Item 1. Cordage. Its scarcity in a crisis is almost always overstated. Paracord and webbing are obvious. But the moment you look past the obvious, the options multiply rapidly. The inner lining of most vehicle door panels contains braided wire harness wrap, tightly woven and surprisingly strong under tension. Seat belt webbing from a wrecked vehicle can support enormous static load and can be cut free using nothing more than a sharp rock edge. Shoelaces, especially from military-style boots, are made from high-strength nylon braid and are routinely used for splints, tourniquets, shelter rigging, and improvised snares. Even the inner strands of damaged rope or cable can become dozens of smaller working lines for fishing, repairs, or traps. What veterans understand that most civilians do not is that cordage is not just about strength. It is about knot efficiency under load. A thin line with the right knot often holds better than a thick line with the wrong one. That single insight changes what counts as usable material entirely. That's 1. But cordage only matters if you're still warm enough to tie a knot. Item 2 solves that. Item 2. Fire. The failure point in survival is almost never fuel. It is ignition. More specifically, protecting an ignition source from moisture when you finally need it. Most vehicles contain a 12-volt electrical system that often still works after a crash. Jump leads, or stripped copper wire from a damaged harness, can create an electrical arc hot enough to ignite dry grass, char cloth, or seat cushioning. Steel wool ignites instantly when touched to both terminals of a 9-volt battery. The science is simple. Electrical. Resistance creates heat. Fine metal strands heat almost instantly because their surface area is enormous compared to their mass. Enough heat means combustion, even in damp conditions. Veterans operating in harsh environments learn quickly that redundancy in fire-starting methods is non-negotiable, and the modern environment is saturated with hidden ignition sources, vehicles, electronics, construction sites, discarded appliances. Most people walk past them without ever seeing the fire hidden inside. That's 2. Fire keeps you warm, but in 72 hours, the thing that will actually kill you isn't cold. Item 3. Item 3. Water. This is where the science becomes counterintuitive. The human body begins suffering measurable cognitive decline after losing roughly 2% of its water content. For an average adult, that's about 1.4 liters. The real mistake most people make is not failing to find water. It is failing to collect the water already arriving around them. A mylar blanket, tarp, rain jacket, plastic bag, or even a vehicle floor mat can become a rain catchment system within minutes. Clear plastic. Bags tied around leafy branches collect distilled water through plant transpiration during sunlight hours. No fire, no filter, no chemicals, just evaporation and condensation doing the work for you. Abandoned sites often contain PVC piping that can redirect flowing water downhill using gravity alone. The principle is simple. Water obeys gravity perfectly, but survival depends on whether someone sees discarded pipe or a functioning water delivery system. That's 3. You're warm, you have water, but one bad cut in the next hour undoes all of it. Item 4. Medical. This is where under-preparation becomes immediately visible and sometimes irreversible. Deep wounds require pressure and absorbent material. The cotton padding inside vehicle seats can function as emergency wound packing material once the upholstery is removed. Clean clothing can be torn into strips for compression bandages. Perfect sterility is impossible in improvised medicine. The real priority is slowing blood loss long enough to stay conscious. Direct pressure maintained continuously for 10 minutes is often enough to begin clot formation in non-arterial bleeding. Fractures require immobilization. Wooden branches, tent poles, rolled magazines, or metal conduit can all function as splints when properly secured. These are not advanced medical procedures. They are physics applied to anatomy, and the required materials exist almost everywhere humans do. 4 down. You can treat a wound, but if you don't know where you are, none of it gets you home. Item 5. Navigation. Modern dependence on GPS has created a dangerous weakness. Battery loss, signal failure, device damage, one failure point, and orientation disappears completely. The sun moves roughly 15 degrees per hour across the sky. An analog watch aimed toward the sun can approximate south in the northern hemisphere by bisecting the angle between the hour hand and 12 o'clock. It is not perfect, but it is accurate enough to maintain direction. A simple shadow stick placed into the ground can establish east-west orientation through shadow movement. At night, the North Star remains one of the most reliable navigational references on Earth. These methods require no manufactured tools, only knowledge, and knowledge weighs nothing. 5. You know where you're going. But if no one knows where you are, direction alone won't save you. Item 6. Signal. Any reflective surface can become a rescue tool: a vehicle mirror, a phone screen, aluminum foil, a compact disc. Sunlight reflected correctly can be seen by aircraft from enormous distances. The universal distress pattern, 3 short, 3 long, 3 short, is recognized worldwide. Smoke remains one of the most effective daytime rescue signals ever devised. Black smoke contrasts against bright skies. White smoke contrasts against dark terrain. The color itself becomes tactical. Veterans trained in search and rescue understand something important. Rescuers are already looking. The challenge is not creating noise. The challenge is becoming visible in the right way, at the right time. 6. You can be found. But found doing what? Sheltering or dying in the open? Item 7 decides that. Item 7. Shelter. Wind chill is not discomfort. It is accelerated heat transfer. At 0 degrees Celsius with strong wind, exposed skin can experience conditions equivalent to -11. As body temperature drops, coordination begins to fail. At roughly 35 degrees Celsius core temperature, shivering may suddenly stop. Not because the body recovered, because it is running out of energy to continue fighting. Anything that traps still air becomes insulation. Leaves, grass, pine needles, crumpled paper. A debris shelter covered with thick organic material can retain enough body heat to survive near freezing temperatures even without fire. Not because the shelter creates heat, because it slows the rate at which heat escapes. Survival often comes down to controlling loss, not creating abundance. 7. You have shelter. Warmth is held. But held for how long? Item 8. Food. Humans can survive weeks without food, but performance begins degrading within days. Cold, stress, and fear accelerate calorie consumption dramatically. The goal is not a feast, it is efficient fuel. Passive food systems become critical. Snares require almost no energy once set. You build them once and let time work for you. Dandelions are edible, calorie-bearing, and globally widespread. Inner pine bark has sustained human populations during famines for centuries, and insects, despite the psychological barrier, contain protein levels comparable to meat. The body does not negotiate based on preference. It processes fuel, or it consumes itself. 8. You have fuel. Now the question is whether anyone can reach you, and whether you can reach them. Item 9. Tools. Stone can become a blade. Flint, obsidian, chert, and even broken glass fracture into razor-sharp edges when struck correctly. The process is simple physics. Correct angle, correct force, controlled fracture. Wooden wedges and digging sticks multiply human strength through leverage alone. The material is everywhere. The difference is perception. Most people see debris. A trained observer sees capability. 9. You can make what you need, but none of this matters if rescuers are searching the wrong place. Item 10. Item 10. Communication. When devices fail, communication changes form. It becomes persistence. A rock cairn with an arrow. Marks cut into bark. Symbols visible from the air. These are not primitive systems. They are durable systems. Search and rescue. Teams recognize them immediately. An X means medical help needed. 3 fires in a triangle means rescue required. Survival communication is not about talking. It is about leaving readable evidence behind. 10. You are readable. Search teams can follow you. The final item determines whether all 10 of the others hold together long enough to matter. Item 11. The mind. Every survival decision depends on a functioning brain, and the prefrontal cortex, responsible for judgment and planning, is often the first thing stress disrupts. Panic kills, not metaphorically, operationally. It drives people to waste energy, abandon shelter, and move when they should remain still. Under acute stress, the nervous system redirects blood flow away from higher reasoning and toward immediate survival response. Useful in a 2-second emergency. Disastrous in a multi-day survival event. Military survival programs teach a simple countermeasure. Controlled breathing. 4 seconds in, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds out. This is not about calmness. It is a physiological override. Slow breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, lowers heart rate, reduces cortisol, and restores cognitive function. The veterans who survive are not superhuman. They are trained to reset their mind before making decisions, and that skill costs absolutely nothing. What all 11 categories share is the same principle. Survival is rarely a problem of total scarcity. It is usually a problem of perception. A gas station contains fuel, cordage, signaling tools, fire starters, medical supplies, reflective surfaces, and shelter materials. A forest contains the same resources in different form. The military. Veteran walking past a wrecked vehicle is not just seeing wreckage. They are seeing a battery, a mirror, seatbelt webbing, medical padding, fire-starting material, navigation tools. The environment did not change. Only perception did. The crisis is real, but the scarcity is often constructed, and the gap between those two facts is filled entirely by knowledge that costs